Welcome back, gang, to Nopes and Opes. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Island
Yep.
and Lancelot, who's sleepy. And here we are. We are now on a hot streak with the episodes, and we're trying to keep the ball rolling. So, moving into this next episode, we're kind of talking a little bit about what's in stored in the future, reflecting a little bit on the past, and kind of getting into relationships and dating.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking a little bit. We're talking.
Yeah, we're
We're
getting
going.
deep.
We're going deep dive here.
Yeah, deep dive.
Yeah, and I mean, like the last episode that we just recorded, um, I thought was really informative and really useful, and something that
I hope so.
hopefully people can kind of relate to and get some useful kind of knowledge from. But in this episode, I thought it would be kind of cool because it was a very general, a kind of very broad, just kind of it didn't really get into any specifics. And so what I want from this episode is because I think I'm looking at you. I'm across the table from you, and I'm looking at the Rowan of 2025, and I'm super impressed. I'm really proud. I'm just kind of shocked at the progress that you've made. But I also think, even though we've talked about this a little bit, I think the perspective now and just the kind of mindset and the clear headedness, I think you've done a lot to kind of clear the litter, right? I think for a long time, your brain was pretty littered with a
Oof.
lot of things, like a lot of negativity, a lot of just things that were not beneficial to you. And I think you have
Yeah.
done a good job of kind of,
Yeah. I mean, like, the litter was like, I think I got to a point where I became very jaded and hurt. And anytime you get in that kind of zone, it's very easy to just kind of like blame others and kind of almost like victimize yourself. And
sure.
I think I did that, and I had my time to do that. But with the idea of taking responsibility and just like really kind of like trying to come at it with like a healthy mindset
Yeah.
has really kind of like cleared things up and put me in a great spot now. But that I mean, it's taken a long time to get to the spot.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's my kind of interest is what, like having the mindset now, having the clear headedness, having the ability to kind of step outside and move past the pain that like really fogs things up, right? I mean, when you're in it, when you're suffering, when you're going through it, it really affects your ability to think, perform,
Yeah.
manage, cope, all of it, right? And so, like, I'm looking at you now, and I'm saying, "Dang, like Rowan's on the path, right, to being where he needs to be." But what are the lessons, like looking back now with this new mindset, that you can clearly kind of say, "Oh, wow, this was something that was clearly evident. This is something that I learned." And then, so what are the lessons that you've learned from not only the breakup, but kind of going the process of going through the breakup,
Yeah.
and then, well, well, I guess, and then how does that apply to things now? Like
Yeah.
as you begin your journey, kind of on dating and kind of moving forward in that direction,
Yeah.
what are you going to take from the past and apply it to your present?
Yeah. Well, first thing is like I don't regret anything, which I think is like a really like healthy mentality to have. Like I think everything happens for a reason. And so like looking back on it, I don't look at it like, oh, what a waste of time, or like, oh, like I should have done this or I should have done that. It's more of like I look back and it's just kind of I come out with like more of an understanding of just, like
Can
the
I ask one
situation.
question real quick?
Yeah.
Do you believe in regrets at all? Like, do you have any regrets?
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
I've had regrets. I
Okay.
don't like having regrets. So I try to now live a mentality of like you don't want to be the guy that's like, I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life if I don't do this thing. And I mean, that's the thing that I have like we talked about in an episode that the microphone was turned off for. I had
Ooh.
Little shade,
Low
little
blow.
shade thrown that way. But no, so I in the episode I'm talking about how I really want to try and go for something, and I've always been afraid to because I'm afraid I'll fail, and that has been like a big regret of mine is not letting myself do that thing. So to start, I don't regret anything. I think that it is better to love and lost than to not love at all. So like first piece of advice, like get out there, try and be in relationships, like go for it. Because you'll learn so much based on every single relationship that you have, and you'll learn so much about yourself.
Yeah. Just don't watch YouTube and think you're out there
Yeah.
dating,
Yeah. No.
right? Like
If
just don't
you're
watch
yeah.
every single YouTube video out there on dating and be like, "Oh, okay, that's what it's like."
Well, and it's also like you have to figure out what works for you. Um, so like there's certain core components of a relationship that kind of carry through with everyone. But every relationship is very individualized. It's like what is important to you and your partner versus the next couple could be completely different things.
Not not could be, absolutely will be,
Exactly.
right? Every single relationship you
Yeah.
have, whether it's intimate or not, is there are going to be different dynamics,
Yeah.
right? The relationship between you and I is different than the relationship between Deepu and I,
Yeah.
which is different than the relationship between Pramod and I,
Yeah.
which is different than the relationship between my mom and I,
Yeah.
right? So,
The second piece that I kind of take with me is my second piece of advice is don't lose yourself in the relationship.
oh man,
Something that
I
I did and something that's very just kind of like toxic.
both of us
Yeah.
have lost ourselves.
And it's extremely easy because you want it to work out and
Well,
you might sacrifice yourself to do that.
what about this thought? And again, these are all thoughts that these this is so cool about this podcast and something that keeps me coming back and makes me so excited is
Please keep coming back.
I come to these realizations. Yeah, absolutely. Because I get as much out of this podcast as I hope that others
Yeah.
get. Right. I mean, I learn and having these conversations, I learn as much as I hope other people learn. But do you think and again, these are thoughts and it's just like, whoa, what the heck? But do you think your your ability to lose yourself is reliant on the fact that you've never found yourself? Whoa,
Whoa.
right? That's what
Whoa.
I'm thinking. I'm like, I I think that my ability to lose myself now is pretty near zero
Hmm.
because I'm so solid
Yeah.
in who I am.
Yeah.
I'm so solid in this. Like if someone comes to me and they're like, "You got to do this," I'm like, "Nope, not gonna happen." Whether it's in work, whether it's in relationships, whatever it
Yeah.
is, and yeah. What do you think about that?
I mean, freaking drop the mic. I definitely. I think when the situation I was in, like I thought I knew who I was, and then life happened, COVID happened, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna freaking flip the switch and become a different person. And I really did lose myself because I didn't have a solid foundation of who I was as a person. Because like college
Yeah,
is meant to be a time to like experiment and kind of figure out who you are, which is what
hopefully,
everyone
yeah,
says. But I think like it's your 20s. Like college is college. You're gonna do some stupid stuff. You're gonna do some fun stuff. You're gonna experiment. You're gonna have all different type of experiences, whatever it may be. But then when you leave college, you become like an adult. Like you have to be in the real world. You got to find a job. You got to find a place to live.
Well, I think it's shifted, right? Like in my mom's time, you were married by the time you were 22, right? So I think it's just shifting later and
Yeah.
later.
I mean, it all just kind of depends, right? Like I do think there's a lot of people that are getting married really young still,
Yeah,
but they don't know who they are, right?
yeah, yeah,
That's my, hot take, but it's your life. Do what you want to do.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so to answer your question, I agree. Like if you don't know who you are, it is extremely hard to not lose yourself in a relationship. But I will also counter and say I do think there are people that know who they are, but there is like an insecurity or an anxiety or some maybe past trauma where they go like, you know what? I'll sacrifice this thing that I hold on to so that it'll work out. Because I do think people will self-sabotage.
Okay. So then my counter argument to your counter argument or counter statement, I guess, is do you really know yourself? Have you done the work? Have you gotten to the point where you need to get to if you have past traumas? If you have because I think like in my mind, traumas can be dealt with, right? You can move past trauma. There's a lot of people that have suffered some horrific things
Yeah.
and gotten to the point where they are
So
healthy
you're
and have
saying
moved
if there
past
still is something that's deemed as trauma,
or whatever, like an issue,
yeah, yeah.
right? If you
Can you really
whatever
say
words
that
you,
you know yourself?
yeah. Have you done the work? Have you
Mm,
gotten to the point where you need to get to?
maybe not because
That's what I think.
yeah, I mean, I would agree with that because like I've had a very fortunate life. Like extremely traumatic things. Like trauma is it's a very tough word because there's like different definitions of it. It depends on who you're speaking to, and there's certain like phenomenons that happen that are like, okay, that is like straight up trauma. But then it's also based on the person's perspective. Like you were in a extremely serious car accident, and to someone that's like, oh my god, that's a huge, like very traumatic incident, and you look at it like, oh, just a fun story I get to tell.
Yeah, I think I tend to I like that statement that there's things that are just straight up trauma. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think there are some things where we, like someone from the outside, may look at and be like,
Uh,
"Holy God, that
yeah,
person obviously suffered trauma in that situation." But if they didn't, they didn't,
yeah,
right? And so I don't know if there's anything that's necessarily like, "Oh, that's gonna create
yeah.
trauma. That's gonna create a PTSD response or whatever it is," right?
Yeah. So I'll say for myself, like I have not experienced anything traumatic,
Okay.
but there was a time where, like I said in the beginning of this, the past relationship, like it fucked me up. Like
Mm,
it affected me big time, and a lot of things that I had to unpack and work through. And so now that I've worked through them, I definitely think I know myself and I know what's important to me, and I now feel that I am able to date
mm,
because I think a big thing for me is like dating is super important. Like love, relationships, romance. Like I'm an extremely emotional, um, sentimental, romantic, intense guy
yeah.
when it comes to dating.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like I want to have that space be free of any past BS, past trauma, past feelings. Like I don't want that to be involved in anything that I want going in the future, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, that being the case, like I am not doing anything to jeopardize that. Like I'm going to work on myself so that I can get through that. So that way, when I meet the person that like I'm compatible with and like things are going well with, I'm not going to ruin it because I'm like, oh, but this thing in the past, like I can't get over. Like, and then, like that ruins it because if I want to find someone that's also in the same position that I am, I
Mm.
don't want to date someone that's like, oh yeah, my last boyfriend really messed me up and like I can't be in a long-term relationship because of this or blah 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's I would be kind of like, well, that stinks.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, like does that answer your question?
Yeah, but like moving forward, like so that's one
Yeah.
lesson. But like moving forward as you begin to date, what have you learned from going through the situation and doing the work, getting to the point where you're at now, where you seem pretty healthy and you
Yeah. Yeah.
seem ready to go? What lessons are you going to bring forward? And then what like attributes, what kind of characteristics are you going to look for in like the potential people that you date?
A big thing is finding someone that values me as much as I value myself.
Oh, you tricked me. I thought you were going to say as much as I value them. And that's a,
No, it's as much as I value myself
yeah,
because and I think they should think the same. Like
yeah.
and that's not to say like I'm the fucking shit. You know, pretty,
No,
pretty
but
good.
that's a brilliant statement though. Like,
Yeah.
please elaborate.
Uh
That's great.
yeah, like I don't want this to come across as like cocky or anything in any way, but like I think I'm a very upstanding person and I've had a lot of life experiences that have really like solidified those statements and I can stand strong and confident behind it. So I truly like think of myself as like a I like to say as like a high value man. Like I have a lot of strong attributes that are very redeemable and good to find in a partner. And I want to be in a relationship where someone values that and values the presence that I bring and what I bring to the table as much as I value it in my own self. Because I got to a point where I lost what I valued about myself. Like I completely lost myself and who I was. And then if I don't know what's good about me or what I bring to the table, how the hell is anyone else going to know what's good about me? And then if they think that this is good about me, but like I don't really think it, then it can like kind of change the way I think about myself and it can get really nasty and toxic. And so I'm very much like, okay, I need to, find someone that's going to bring the love that I bring to myself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and same goes for them. Like I want to meet someone and start dating someone that like takes care of themselves. And that doesn't mean like they work out every day and like they're super active and all this stuff. No, it's just like they have like a love for themselves and a care that is like palpable. Like you can feel it. Like they have been through some stuff and that they make sure that they do their best to just like live a happy and healthy life. And that's just something that's like super important to me now because, being in a relationship with someone that's like either negative or is down or maybe is like depressed is really freaking hard because, you get to a point where like, I love you so much. I want you to be happy, but like you can't actually be happy in your own skin. And I did that with my relationship, and it was kinda like vice versa in the past, like, we were both in a situation where, like, I don't love who I am, and so, like, I'm hoping you'll love me, and then it's kinda the reverse as well, like, I don't love myself, like, I hope you love me, and then it's like, "What? No one's there's no love here." Like, there's a lot of just, like, trying to find something, and so, if you can't find the love within yourself, you're not gonna be able to find it within another.
Well, I think in a way that's really kind of the exact message within the book, right?
Yeah,
The things that I wrote is don't look for somebody else to like fill the voids
yeah,
or to complete you, right? It's just it's impossible. You can't make somebody else happy.
yeah,
They're either going to do it or not. And if they're happy, then they can share it with you. But if they're not, there's nothing you can do to make it happen
yeah,
for sure. Um, so I am going to put you on the spot a little bit and
okay,
hopefully make you a little bit uncomfortable because
fun,
you're saying all of these brilliant things, but you in conversations that you and I have had kind of in private, like
off the
off
podcast.
the podcast record, you have told me some things about some girls that you've been interested in, and there's been some pretty significant red flags,
Yeah,
and you're willing to kind of dismiss those. And how do you reconcile that? Like you have all the knowledge,
mhm,
you're saying all of the right things,
right.
and then in practice, you're
Yeah.
like, like forget the knowledge,
Like
forget
we've
all the
always said, it's very easy to be a hypocrite.
yeah.
No, so
Because I'm just listening to you, and I'm like, man, this kid's brilliant.
yeah,
Like he has it all figured out. And then I think about it. I'm like, some of the conversations we've had, like there, there's,
yeah. I mean, so
and I don't want to mention names or anything like that,
no,
but
no, 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 no. You're good. No, I think you're absolutely right, and it's good to call me out on stuff. So one thing that I'll just like be transparent about is so getting to the point now where like I'm confident in I have these like values that I think are really important to look for in a relationship, right? The thing that I have struggled with is that I will all these things that I'm talking about that are really important lessons are like things that I go like, okay, once I get into the relationship, then they need to occur. But when it's the whole like courting and like trying to, like I'm saying seduce, that sounds very, kind of like negative, but like seducing a woman, getting them to, be interested in me, I lose a lot of that because that I'm not as confident in, and it's really hard to reflect that. But through me talking about it and the conversation we had, like you coming here was kind of the last straw of the thing we were talking about. Like I had been holding on to it for a while.
Mm.
If I think we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was like, I need Highland's input to like really, really get to the final, like the chopping block of like, okay, are you going to go this way with it? Or are you going to go that way with it? And after us talking, I've gone like, okay, no, going another way, another
Yeah.
direction. So that's why when I'm talking about it, I'm also kind of figuring out like, oh no, this is actually what's important. And like you're right, like in that situation, I'm trying to find someone that will um love me as much as I love myself and enjoy my company as much as I enjoy my own. And in that situation, they don't. And
Yeah.
it's like, Rowan, grow a fucking pair, move on.
Yeah.
And that's also because of a mix up of like, this increase in attraction because it's the first person that I've been like really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's also a danger zone that I also would give as a piece of advice. Watch out for crushes. Crushes can be kind of tough because it's very easy to start to become attracted to someone and put them on a pedestal and then start to lose some of values like I have within recent moments. But
Yeah.
I've now kind of come to a conclusion of like, hey, like it was a crush. It was fun to crush over this person, but now I'm like, all right, let's get back to reality. It was fun to live in this fantasy. Now I need to, approach it from a more realistic approach.
Yeah. Well, I think again, that's it, it's so amazing how much we work through like in real time on this podcast,
Yeah.
right? Like you and I think I both have come to some major realizations. You're like, whoa, what the heck? But
And I
uh,
gotta give a shout out to my boy Greg Boyer. Right. So Greg has always been a huge supporter of me in the dating world. And he has always said that kind of lesson to me. Like I had one time where I was talking to him about the podcast, and I was saying, like, oh, I'm thinking about talking to this girl, but like, what if I mention like I have a podcast? She might think it's weird that like I hang out with this 50-year-old dude that may or might not be my boyfriend.
it is weird.
And he comes and stays with me and my parents, and she might be like, "What the fuck's going on?" Right? And Greg stopped me before I could even go down that train. He's like, "Rowan, but that's you, man. Like that's who you are. Like that's something you care about and you like." And I just was like, "Whoa, Greg dropping fucking facts right now." And it's something that I
Oh,
have lost in the past, and I did in my relationship in the past, and it's very easy to lose that when it comes to that situation we were talking about just a minute ago. So in real time, I realized like when we were talking about it, like no, you gotta hold on to the idea of like if they don't like me, if they don't see myself in the light that I see myself, you should not care. They're not the right fit. You need to be around people, and it's the same thing with friendships. It's not even just relationships. I mean, like the way I view you, it is in like a very positive light. Like I think a lot of the things about you are fantastic, great, and I think you bring a lot to the table. I think you feel the same way about me. And so yeah, I look for that. Like if I'm not gonna have a podcast with some guy that's like, this guy's a fucking idiot. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just doesn't work. Same thing with friends. Like you always want to be around people that can really recognize like the great things that you bring to the table. And I had been in situations in the past.
Recognize and appreciate.
Yeah, and, like, I've been in situations in the past where I wasn't getting that, and I was like, "What the heck?" So I started to change things, like the sphere of influence episode, like, I literally, like, changed my personality for people because I'm like, "Oh, I know that they'll like this."
Yeah.
It's part of the people pleaser thing, which we're recovering from. So, yeah, to answer your question, there you go. So, yeah, so another piece of advice when it comes to, relationships, dating, and all of that stuff is, like, the support your friends are like the sphere of influence that you have, right? They will kind of guide you in certain ways when it comes to dating. So like there have been moments where I was unsure of things and I leaned on friends to kind of help me and they helped me.
Friends
Good friends.
and family.
Good friends and good family that are like a good sphere of influence. because in college, I had also a bad sphere of influence. So the advice is pay attention to who you're talking to and how they have a relationship, like what goes on in their life versus what they say to you.
Oh,
Because I had people in college literally tell me, break up with your girlfriend because they wanted me to go out with them and hook up with a bunch of girls because that was what all the guys on the team were doing. And in their relationship, they were cheating, they were not having good relationships. And I was just like, no. And so, like, be mindful of the things that people say to you and the advice they give you.
I I I I think you could repeat that another 10 times. I don't think you can overstate that enough. I think that's ultimately super important. Like throughout life, not only in relationships, whether you're dealing with finances, whether you're dealing with education, whether you're dealing, whatever it is, look at people's actions, right? Forget the words. People can mislead you with words all day long,
Oh, yeah.
right? But look at what they actually produce in their own lives and pay attention to that and believe that,
Yeah.
right? Like people can smooth over anything. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some really, really smooth talkers out there that can, like, I've been suckered myself by people. Like, in a lot of ways, I'm pretty naive, and
Yeah.
I can get I tend to believe the best of people, right? And so I have been taken for rides like really, really badly, and been pretty scarred. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's that's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge deal. Yeah, like people are going to give relationship advice all the time, but
And even when you don't ask for it.
a lot of times when you don't ask
Well,
for
I
it.
mean, like, when you get into a serious relationship, they start to enter into your sphere. Like, they're gonna start to meet your friends. You're gonna meet their friends. They're gonna meet your family. You're
Mm,
gonna meet their family.
yeah.
And what they say about your significant other is gonna impact you. And sometimes people will say things that are really positive and it can really like reassure you and make you feel good.
Mm,
But sometimes people can have a negative outlook. And sometimes it's like it's coming from a wrong place.
mm.
Like they might just not like this person because of,
Jealousy,
yeah,
yeah,
jealousy, whatever it may be.
whatever,
But then
whatever.
it can also come from a place of like love where it's like, hey, I actually think like this person is not treating you the way that you deserve to be treated. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to get extremely defensive, especially when you're in a situation where you care about this person and you want it to work. But like just having an openness and just being conscious of the types of people that are saying these things to you. Um,
And the type of relationship that they have with you.
absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Next piece of advice is have your own things, things that you do, activities,
Oh,
hobbies, friends. Don't make everything come together.
oh, oh. I don't know how you're such a smart 26-year-old.
Just experience, just getting out there.
Dang.
But like that's something that happened to me where I thought that this person is my buddy and they got to be with me for everything. All the hobbies I have, all the friends I have, like they got to get along with everyone. They don't have to. You can have your own stuff that you do. Like for instance, like this podcast. When I start dating someone, it's not going to be Nopes and Opes and Becky or Becca or whoever the hell it ends up being. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm still going to have my own thing. For sure they'll be on the podcast eventually, maybe. We'll see. But you know what I mean? Like for instance, there's one comedian, Ron White, who has this really like important boundary that like when he does comedy, it is for him. Like when he goes to the comedy store, his girlfriend, his wife, he's dating at the time or whoever he's married to, is not allowed to come. Like this is his space. It's kind of like sacred and holy to him. And I think that's extremely important to have because some people think like, oh, when you fall in love, like you got to do everything together. And it's like, no, you need to hold space for yourself, like, and I think that I came from a very kind of dependent background. Like I always had people around me and I never did things by myself. And now that I've lived on my own and had, like time to be by myself, I'm like, oh, no, no, no. This is very important for me to have things that I get to do by myself for myself.
Yeah. No, I don't know exactly how to say this. Um, I was trying to formulate it as you were talking,
Mm,
but I feel it's really important to just keep in mind that you are two individuals coming together to share an experience, but you still are responsible for creating your own life, right?
Yeah.
You share that experience with another person, but you are still responsible for you, right? That person, you're not creating just one life together. You're creating a shared experience between two different lives.
No.
And those two different lives are important. You need to create the life that you want to create, and they need to create the life that they want to create. And then somehow in the middle, you come together and share
Hmm.
those two experiences.
Yeah.
But take responsibility for your life. Do not, yeah, I don't know if I said that correctly, but I think that's ultra
I'm
important.
following.
I I am so impressed. I wish I was just like out in the audience, just listening to somebody up on the stage just speak knowledge. I would just be clapping all the time. I'd just be like, "Yeah, you go, Rowan."
I can just imagine an audience filled with people in the background. Your guy, some guy going, "Whoa, whoa!"
But yeah, man,
Yeah,
Keanu
it's
and
for
I,
sure.
whoa,
Whoa.
yeah,
Um, Another thing that kind of goes coincides with that last kind of piece of advice is have boundaries. Um, like I just think that that's something that people are afraid to have boundaries with people that they love, family, friends. Like boundaries are super important, and part of like knowing who you are is kind of forming those boundaries, and just like really sticking to them because
I
it's
think that's the important part.
yeah.
Like, I think everybody has them.
Hmm.
Everybody says, "Oh, this is what I need." Da da da.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are unwilling or unable or whatever to enforce them,
Yeah.
to actually say, "Nope,
Yeah.
this is the line,
Yeah.
and this you don't get to cross."
Yeah. And part of that idea of boundaries is be okay with saying no, which is like a very simple phrase, but is huge because part of losing yourself, what has happened to me is like you become a people pleaser and you want to make sure that this person you're dating is really, really happy. So you'll stop saying no and being like, yes, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can go there. And for instance, I have a
Yes, we can spend money that we don't have.
absolutely. So like I have a friend and he was in a situation where he goes to bed early and his significant other wanted to go to this party that was kind of like a rave. And this guy does not rave.
Not a raver.
He's not a raver. This is not his scene whatsoever.
Yeah.
And when
What were the ages?
um
Younger.
25,
Okay.
yeah, 25.
Okay.
And so he wanted to go, well he didn't want to go, but he felt that he should. He's in a relationship with this person and was like I have to say yes to make them happy. People pleasing. So when he went to this party, he was miserable the entire time. And he ended up kind of ruining the experience for the significant other
Mm,
because now they're just like checking in on you. And then like jealousy might come and resentment. So like be okay with saying no. Like if you're in love in a relationship, it's like it's perfectly fine with saying no. Like if
yeah.
they're like, hey, I really want you to come do this thing. Like have the balls to be like, actually, like, I know you really want me to do this thing. And I mean, don't be a dick. I'll be like, no, we can't do that. But like in that situation, like, hey, I'm actually like, I don't think I'm gonna have a good time at this rave. I think this is kind of more your scene. I don't want you to be worried about me. Go and have fun. Tell me all about it tomorrow.
I know myself. You know yourself. You take care of
Yeah.
yourself. You create the life that you want to lead. I'll create the life. I want to go to bed at 8. You want to go to the rave.
Yeah.
Let's create the lives that we want to create. And then in the morning, we can share the experience. I can tell you how freaking good I slept.
Hmm.
You can tell me how little
The fun stories
you
from the night or
slept.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like I'm trying to joke about it, but I just I think all of these things are so so important. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking like, Highland, do you know all of these? Like at 50 years old, like are you as intelligent and knowledgeable about these things as Rowan is? So I'm sitting here taking notes because I know them, but I'm think like as you're speaking, I'm thinking back. like one example, I I love music, and I really really do like live music,
Okay.
but I don't like to go to concerts because I'm so tall,
Mhm.
and
What the hell, man?
I'm only
Sit
6'2".
down.
Like Rowan and I are both 6'2".
Yeah, as
Um,
you can tell
yeah,
in
as
the
my
camera.
head is like 14 times bigger than Rowan's. Um, no, so I'm much taller than most people,
Yeah,
and so somebody behind me is usually really really pissed off, and it
yeah.
just like I worry about that, and it just makes me
Unless it's Shaquille O'Neal.
nervous. Yeah, if it's Shaquille O'Neal, like great man,
Yeah.
like awesome, like hey buddy, but everybody else is like, and so it just makes it tough
Yeah.
for me, and so I don't really enjoy it. But in past relationships, a lot of girls like they love live music, right? And that's a huge deal. And so I would take them to these concerts and I'd pretend to have a good time. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that was so awesome. And I would get home and just be exhausted, right? Just
Yeah.
because I was just pretending to be something and enjoy something that was really quite taxing for me. And yeah, so yeah, I'm listening to all this and I'm so impressed. And I hope that others, especially of your generation, if you are in the dating world, and if you are trying to figure these things out, like take note, like think them through. Like there is, from an older perspective, there's there's an extreme amount of really really good, applicable, very useful knowledge being espoused within this episode, and
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
I'm super impressed.
Thanks. Another thing is, if you mess up, freaking apologize. Own up to your bullshit. Don't hide. Don't deny.
Oh,
Apologize. And the most important part of apologizing, do not explain why you did the thing to justify why you did it. That's not apologizing. That's you trying to justify it and basically making the other person feel bad. So sometimes all it takes is being like, babe, I'm sorry. It won't happen again.
I really screwed up.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
also it's okay to sometimes be like, if they're like, why did you do that? Be like, okay, this is why, I
yeah,
thought, you were drowning. So that's why I barged in the room, whatever it is.
yeah.
So, yeah, be like freaking own up to your bullshit. Apologize. I think a lot of people get, and don't become the person that's always saying sorry and it doesn't
Oh,
mean anything. Like, actually, like, listen to, next point, communication and listening is the forefront of any goddamn relationship,
well, I
whether it be
think hold on.
friends, family,
Can I just
women,
go back to the
men.
other one?
Yeah.
Like don't be the person that is just always saying sorry.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you said that, but I think that's really an important point too is actually know what you're saying sorry
Hmm.
for and be cognizant of, yep, this is what I need to apologize. Don't just be
Yeah.
the like nobody's going to respect the dude or whoever that
Yeah.
just, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, man.
Well,
Like,
because it eventually means nothing.
yeah.
Like, you're just saying that
I guess you
because,
said that very well.
yeah,
Sorry.
well, it means nothing because you're like, uh, basically, like, if I say this, you have to forgive me. Um, you don't have to be forgiven. Like, nothing has to happen. People choose to forgive you,
Yeah.
and it's a tough one. And people hold on to stuff, right? Um, okay, so listening and communication is
Oh,
super important. And like, I think a lot of people are afraid to approach certain topics because they worry that the person you're dating is going to have this like adverse reaction. Um, like for instance, like a big topic is like sex. Like I believe sex is a conversation, right? To quote my Faja, my fucking dad told me that. That's a weird relationship we got, but I believe him. Like right, like it's super important,
it's one of wow.
and at all ages too. Like not like at any age when you're getting into that realm of things, like you want to make sure that everyone involved is extremely comfortable and feels safe. You never want to have it be like there's like everything has to be talked about. Like you have to make sure that everyone's okay because it's very easy to just get lost in the sauce. I guess.
Yeah, well, I think the two really important conversations are money and sex. um, I don't know if I'm still 13 years old or whatever, but I still like kind of like snicker when I say that. Like, I said sex. Um, but I don't know.
You're a grown man,
Sometimes I
Hyland.
just wonder, like, what the hell am I
You
doing
have
in life?
white in your beard.
I'm freaking Santa Claus, man. I've been around for like 800 years.
Uh,
No, I do. I think those two conversations are ultimately super important, and I think like you and I have discussed this before, but like matching like sexual energies and sexual
They're not gonna beat
outlooks.
those rumors, Fred.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
we talk
but
about it a lot.
no, but I mean that like those conversations are so important
No, they really are.
because if you guys aren't on the same page as far as money, if you're not on the same page as far as like sex and
But it's not even those two. I mean, like it's everything. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
like I mean, if you want to have a family,
yeah.
if you know,
Okay,
like
yeah.
religion, like philosophy,
Oh
how you
God,
treat people, like
yeah.
you know, all those things. Like the
How
like
much you tip?
yeah, come on. Tip your bartenders and waitresses, please, and waiters.
Well,
Well, yes, we're struggling out here. But no, like communication is just so important. Like if you want to take anything away from this, I'm mad I made this to like almost the last point, but like communication is key. Because if you communicate all the things that I talked about in the past, like don't have to be problem.
well, maybe it is cool. It's at the end because it's the most important. Like it,
I'm just saying I
like
hope people made it to the end,
the
you know.
last. Well,
If you
yeah,
made it to 5 minutes and you're like, well, he said two things, I'm done.
yeah. But I think it is like the last thing that you hear is the thing that you remember, and I
Yeah.
hope that people do remember this because talk talking in a way where you're actually communicating with each
Yeah.
other, and then like where you're actually expressing what you want to express, and then actually listening.
Yeah.
Because listening is
Emmett has an actually like he has a very interesting perspective. He talks about relationships with a sense of curiosity. He thinks
mm,
having a sense of curiosity is extremely important,
I think a sense of curiosity in all aspects of life.
and I think that if you take that kind of mindset with conversation and communication,
Yeah.
you know, like to really be like, okay, like, you know, you say these things, or like I'm assuming these things, but like, what are you like? What do you really stand for? What are you really into? You know, like how much money do you really make? What you know, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
like come at it from a curious standpoint, and then that also helps you figure out if this person is compatible with you,
Yeah.
right? And I think I'll make that the last point is communication. I think we might do another a part of this. If you guys like what I had to say about my advice on relationships, and granted, let me just make sure you guys know I'm currently not in a relationship, but I've learned a few things. I hope it's good advice. I'm interested to see the phone call I get from my father after listening to this episode, on whether or not he's like, "Hey, you idiot, you shouldn't have said that," or what. But maybe
No,
he'll be super supportive.
I think I'm super supportive.
Well, thanks, buddy.
I
And I
l-
learned a lot of this from him.
I
I learned a
loved it.
lot of it from the, you know, the situation I had been in, and just, I mean, basically, most of those lessons were just like things I wish I could like yell at my past self, like, "Hey, man, stop doing that," or like, "You should think about it this way." Um, and I just think like give yourself some grace when it comes to dating. You're gonna fuck up. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to make mistakes, and just like keep moving forward. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There's always a future for you with anyone.
Well, I'd like to quote Renee Baca is ride the wave, and if the wave crashes and you crash and burn, another set of waves is going to come in.
Exactly.
So
Renee Baca.
I don't know if that makes sense at all or not, but
Drop the mic.
all right.
Well, with that being said, if you like the episode and you want to hear more about what I have to say, or maybe what Highland has to say, uh,
I don't have anything, man. Like
yeah,
that was freaking brilliant.
well, you can let us know at nopeopepod@gmail.com. Also, leave a comment on the YouTube or on Spotify. We read all of them. Check us out on YouTube. We got all the new setup. It looks great. Two different camera angles. Rowan Cam got a lot of love this episode. So, yeah, with all that being said, we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. I did the face again. I do it every time.
No.
I do it every time.